90 years ago, Cabrillo Marine Aquarium started as a card table on the beach. A simple setup, a few specimens, and the belief that the ocean should be shared with the general public. Today, we'll be joined by 3 CMA directors, Director Emerita Dr. Suzanne Lawrence Miller, Director Emeritus Mike Schott, and the current Executive Director, Chrislyn McCarran. We'll also hear from other senior staff members from past and present.
And back in those days, it was really the beginning of making things work with what you had. As I recall, I think Dr. William Lloyd, the dentist, was using shoe boxes and shirt boxes from his shirts that were being laundered, and he turned them into exhibits. And so the reason I bring that up is I always thought that was it gave us the beginning of what we refer to, I think, informally amongst ourselves, the Cabrillo way, and that was part of it.
Right. I think of the Cabrillo way as connecting people with marine life directly, a real experience with marine life, even involving them with it as much as possible, not just a place to come look at marine life.
Hi, I'm Jeff Landesman, the Chief Aquarist here at the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. And our top priority is the health of the animals. And there are several factors that help go into that. First is we make sure that the animals are put into a habitat that they're familiar with, one that mimics the environment that they came from, one that's free of predators, one that has cracks and crevices for the shy animals, and space for the more active animals to swim. That's what we focus on by putting them in our aquaria. Nutrition is also very important. We give them a balanced and diverse food diet. You have shrimp, mackerel, squid, clam, krill, anchovies, all soaked with vitamins. So they have a very good diet that keeps them healthy. In case fish do get sick, like us, they get sick too. We have a very modern animal care center. And animal care has gone so much better over the years. What gives us a lot of satisfaction actually is when we go into the exhibit hall and we see healthy animals and our visitors see these animals, especially children. When they walk up to a tank and put their nose on the tank and their eyes are wide open, they're in a different world. And later in the day, they may remember that and talk to their parents. So maybe a couple days later, they'll remember that and talk to their friends at school. Or maybe, who knows, maybe they'll remember that for the rest of their lives.
Hi, I'm Jose Bacallao. I'm the exhibits director at the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. I'm standing here in front of our new pump house, which is the life support system for our exhibit hall. The exhibit hall was fabricated in 1980 and opened to the public in 1981. The design of the old pump house and the life support system that cared for all of our animals was designed in the 70s, and that was a long time ago. So in 2020, we got together as a team and we worked with engineers and designers, and we came up with an incredible plan to create everything that's behind me. This modern system brings new technology and new methods of caring for our animals. We have filtration, we have structure, and we have accommodations for our staff, our operators, who manage the daily operations of life support care. What's happening inside this room directly impacts the health and the water quality that our animals live in every single day. We're very proud of what we achieved, and the new system brings us into a modern world where we are preventing disease, we are providing crystal clear and healthy seawater so that our animals can thrive in their exhibits. We continue to strive to improve the animal care program at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, meet our requirements through all of our regulations, and our partnership with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Our standards and our commitment to work with the standards at AZA help our team produce the best outcomes for our animals. The care we perform, whether it's through nutrition or enrichment or just general well-being, starts right behind me. The heart of the exhibit hall is right here.
You know, we had the advantage of having very long-lasting staff, so it was when John Olguin retired, Larry Fukuhara took his place, and that must have been a difficult position to be in, but he he made it his own in many ways, and he continued the important things that John had started, and gave his own contributions to the whole.
Hi there, my name is Larry Fukuhara. I used to be the program director here many years ago. Running programs when we first started here. It's very interesting because we would do it in the auditorium and we were happy. One time I got so excited because we had 65 people that came that night. It was interesting now because we would get thousands. And then what happens when you learn about the animals in the ocean, it's not just the ocean anymore, it's something much larger. And so as they grow up, they influence other people, but they also respect our ocean, which I think is very, very important. That's one of the best things about what we do here. We have education programs, but it's fun. And we try to get them involved in different things that we do.
And then Mike, when he joined the staff, I gave him one of the last areas of the exhibit hall that weren't finished yet, the open ocean plankton area. And then that turned into not only completing those exhibits, but the jelly lab. Later on, it grew into the aquatic nursery and the young scientists program. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And a lot of it was that people stayed with us a long, long time.
One of the questions that's asked on our ABA application is staff retention rate. Every time, 100%. Nobody leaves, which is great, but it also, because of that, it lends to the family feel that we have here.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm the programs director here at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, and what started as a modest card table on the beach has blossomed into what you see today. The card table initially was just a way to interact with our guests at the beach, and it was a lifeguard who was just curious about the different animals and different organisms that people were interacting with on the beach. That passion then turned into a museum, which was a location where people could come and learn about some of the different organisms we have, but organisms all over the world as well. And it was a museum, and that museum then eventually grew into the aquarium. But not only are we here at the aquarium, but our programs extend outside of the aquarium as well. We're fortunate to be right at the beach here, and so our programs take people out to the beach. So we've grown from that card table of just a handful of different ways of interacting with people to actually having programs that lead people out into the touch tank, or out into the tide pools. And now we have volunteers who come down. We train them about marine biology and the animals. Not only do they lead tours around the aquarium, but they also put kids on boats, and we take kids whale watching. All that was started by John Olguin, that lifeguard with that focus and that idea of connecting our community with the local animals that we have here. And that has grown once again even into bigger programs like our Grunion program as well that we've been doing for over 75 years, bringing people out to the beach to see the Grunion come. Our programs have evolved to include more hands-on opportunities here at the aquarium as well, with our exploration center and aquatic nursery that brings kids down to do actual research in the nursery itself, surrounded by other people who are scientists or who are engaged in research opportunities themselves as well. So the students have a real enriching opportunity to do real research.
And Suzanne, that's one of the reasons that I argued to have the exhibit hall named after you, is because you were this scientist that would love to share with people what was going on, again, the Cabrillo way. And here you had been part of the designer with Frank Gehry to make it so that people went in and felt like they were in behind the scenes. Things that we all know people are attracted to and that will be impactful for people. And that's exactly why that worked out. And how appropriate that we're in the John M. Olguin Auditorium, because Frank, when he met with you and John, he looked at he saw your personalities.
Yeah.
And this auditorium and the courtyard was really done for somebody like John that was talking with people and could keep a group of whatever size and whatever age enthralled with whatever he had to say because of the way he was saying it.
Yeah.
And so for these two main parts of our facility being named after you guys, I always thought was so appropriate. And as director, I got a chance to tell that story many times.
First and foremost, I want people to feel welcome when they come in. That's the number one goal. I want people to feel like this space is for them, and then I want them to learn. I want them to have fun. I want them to be inspired. I want them to enjoy time with family and friends, and I want them to leave knowing that they have an impact on the ocean, both positive and negative, and hopefully will have ideas on what they can do to help protect our ocean. Exhibit design shapes visitor experience in a couple different ways. You want people when they're coming in here to feel like they can read something on a wall or engage in something interactive in a way that gives them comfort and allows them to take on information. So when we're designing exhibits, what we do is we want to make sure there's not too much content. Oftentimes, a lot of words can make people feel overwhelmed. You don't want it to be too colorful, too flashy, because again, that can disengage people too. So making sure there's enough white space, making sure people's eyes have a place to, what I always say, kind of land, kind of rest. The way people process information is very different the way they did 90 years ago. What I love about Cabrillo is when you came in here before we did a lot of the renovations, you know, think about it. 90 years ago, we didn't have Google. We didn't have a lot of scientific programs in schools. So this space was like an encyclopedia for the ocean and the environment. But the way we process information now, unfortunately, people's attention spans is a lot smaller than they used to be. So the way we create content, we actually have to make it less. We have to make it more relevant to what people are seeing today. We make it bilingual, especially for the community here and the people who come in. We want to make sure we have images that reflect what we're doing, but also that people can recognize. And we have to make sure that when we're writing information, that it's written in a way that people can understand. We want to balance being scientific, but also meeting people where they are. So it's a definite dance.
I'd like to show you guys a little bit about our collections. Cabrillo Marine Aquarium started out as shells on a card table in Venice Beach in front of a lifeguard tower. And as that collection started to grow, they needed a place to house it. In 1935, those shells moved into the Cabrillo Beach bathhouse and a museum was born. Over the years, many specimens were added to our collection, whether people collecting new things or research projects. Things were deposited here and our collection grew and grew. And now we use our collection for teaching. If you go to some of our public spaces, you'll notice lots of specimens on display, like our Exploration Center. We have a lot of preserved specimens in jars and dried specimens, so we use our specimens for teaching. We also have a really neat way of engaging with people through our public engagement window that we didn't have before in our old space. We have a window that's open to the courtyard, and at set times we're going to have staff there working on specific projects, articulating a skeleton, cleaning a cormorant skull, prepping shark skin, things like that, and the public can watch and ask questions.
So there is a rich history of conservation, and I think it comes very naturally. And I think that sometimes can be the most effective way that conservation is implemented, is when it starts very honestly, needs to happen because of this, because I live here and I care about that. And John was very good, and that he instilled that in other staff that I think has continued to this day.
I think one evolution that we've had in terms of that is our ability to participate with actual reintroduction programs. Mm-hmm. So we are actively involved in saving animals from extinction programs. We're one of the, for our size, like the biggest contributor to safe sharks and rays. In fact, I got a text this morning. Cabrillo has done so much. Thank you. But also our white abalone project, and we raised 900 critically endangered white abalone that were reintroduced in 2025 alone. Wow. We currently have 3 sunflower sea stars. We're getting involved in the Safe Sunflower Sea Star program, and we're hoping to, as we get the resources, build that up. We couldn't do any of this without the aquatic nursery. And I think that the aquatic nursery is a really important step in our conservation evolution.
My name is Wyatt Patry. I'm the curator of aquaculture and conservation here at the Aquatic Nursery. Here at the Aquatic Nursery is where education, aquaculture, and conservation all kind of come together. The Aquatic Nursery is divided into 4 live exhibits currently. We have the Abalone Cove for our white abalone, the Seahorse Sanctuary for our Pacific seahorses, a section for the sunflower sea stars, and even a tank of our giant sea bass currently, which was an incredible project from 2019 where approximately 400 giant sea bass were raised in the nursery from an effort at Southern California Marine Institute and Aquarium of the Pacific. And those animals ended up being released out at Redondo Beach by Cabrillo Aquarium. Our sunflower sea stars were donated to us by Cal State Long Beach as larvae, so we received hundreds of larvae of sunflower sea stars and raised a few of them up, one of which is now the largest of that cohort, which is called Cupid, which is named for the day that they were spawned in 2024 on Valentine's Day. So with our live foods program, we hope to expand it to start growing copepods, which will provide the food necessary to raise other fish species like the blue-banded goby, which is a really popular fish throughout public aquariums. And our hope this year is to begin breeding those and be able to provide them for other AZA institutions to eventually eliminate the need to collect those from the wild altogether.
This collection of volunteers that led to our friends of Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. Right. And I like to take a moment to give a shout out to our friends group because they're incredibly effective, incredibly helpful, so important to who we are, help us fundraise. Yes, but they're also a dynamic and creative force as well. They're central to everything that we do, and they do a very, very good job.
Friends was actually founded in 1993, and it followed years and years of people that were friends who would make potluck dinners and throw parties and actually go buy things for the aquarium when the process was too complicated through the city. They became an official nonprofit 501c3 in 1993, and that opened up a whole new world of funding because then you could actually apply for grants and foundations, and people started setting up endowments. Today we have more than $1 million of endowments that we can use to fund special projects, scholarships, and other things. We're able to send our Aquarium on Wheels out to schools that can't come to us. Also help build new exhibits, fund special programs, things like outdoor spring classroom when we get about 25 to 30,000 kids over a 9-week period in the spring. We pay for those buses, we pay for all the beautiful flags and the puppets and all the fun stuff. So it's a great joy to be a part of this place. Often we have kids that come on the buses. We ask how many of you have never been to the beach before, and you would be surprised how many hands go up in the air. We feel that's a privilege and such an honor to be a part of that process and to introduce children to the ocean and all of its beautiful creatures. And we know that we're helping to make them conservationists and care about our world and about our ocean. And that's a joy. That's a joy to be a part of it. And that's what friends are for.
For 90 years, Cabrillo Marine Aquarium has proudly served our community by offering free access to explore and connect with the marine life of Southern California. We have always been rooted in science and driven by a belief that the ocean belongs to everyone. Thank you to all of our supporters. We share our pride in this unique and fascinating aquarium with you. We will remain true to our past, but our focus is forward, growing our conservation impact, advancing animal well-being, and inspiring a deeper connection to the ocean we all share. The ocean is for everyone, and we're just getting started.